Welcome to Cost Saver Conversations. I'm Angela, and I ask the practical questions so you can quickly understand what matters. Today, I'm joined by Assad.
Hi, Angela. We are unpacking Is Your DB Pension CETV Really Worth It? UK Mistakes and Hidden Costs today, and tying it back to the wider cost saver ecosystem, including tools like DB Pension CETV Worth It Calculator and Tax Optimizer tool, so you can turn insights into action quickly.
Just a heads up before we dive in, we are your synthetic hosts. We are great with numbers, but as AI, we can sometimes be confidently wrong. Think of us as the digital versions of your most knowledgeable, slightly caffeinated friends.
Exactly. Treat this chat as a smart estimate only, not as professional financial guidance. Always check important details with official sources or a qualified expert before making any big decisions.
Assad, so today we're getting into DB pensions, specifically these cash equivalent transfer values, CETVs, because they can look pretty incredible when that letter lands, right?
Oh, they really can. I mean, imagine you've been plugging away for decades, contributing to this defined benefit pension, and then one day a letter shows up and it says, here's $480,000.
I mean, that would get my attention.
Right? And suddenly the modest $18,000 a year you were promised just feels kind of small next to that. It's a very human reaction. The pension schemes know it too, by the way.
Oh, I bet they do. So what happens next? People go straight to Google, I'm guessing?
Yeah, exactly. They find a free calculator, plug in the numbers, and boom, big green tick. Go for it. Which is, look, that's kind of the problem. These tools compress this enormous, life-defining decision into like 3 input boxes.
3 boxes for a decision that big?
Yeah, and the thing is, the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority, their starting position is that transferring out of a DB scheme is unsuitable for most people. Most people. And these online calculators they don't reflect that caution at all.
I hadn't really thought about it like that, honestly. So what's at stake if someone gets this wrong?
Well, getting it wrong could cost you $100,000 or more over a 25-year retirement. And there's no undo button. Once the transfer completes, that's it. You can't go back.
Okay, so before we get into all the ways the calculators mess up, what actually is a CETV? Like, what are you giving up?
Sure. So a DB pension promises you a guaranteed income for life, usually rises with inflation, often has a spouse's pension attached, which is, a really big deal. The CETV is basically the scheme's estimate of the lump sum needed today to fund all of those promises.
Right, so it's the price tag on buying out that guarantee.
Exactly. But, and this is the bit people miss, that number is heavily influenced by things like long-term gilt yields, scheme assumptions, actuarial factors, stuff you have zero control over. When gilt yields are low, CETVs balloon. When yields rise, CETVs can shrink by 30% or more within a year.
Wait, really? 30%?
Yeah, so that big number you're staring at, it's not a valuation of your worth. It's a mathematical snapshot on a specific date. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. I think I'd assumed it was just a fixed amount. So when you transfer, you're giving up the guaranteed income, the inflation protection.
The spouse and dependent pensions, which can be worth 50% of your pension, the scheme carrying all the investment risk on your behalf, protection under the Pension Protection Fund if the sponsor fails, you lose all of that. And in its place, you get a pot of money that you have to invest, manage, and draw from without running out. It's a huge shift in responsibility, and honestly, people underestimate it until markets get bumpy.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, so the calculators. Where do they actually go wrong?
Right, so the first one, and it's a biggie, is optimistic return assumptions. A lot of these tools default to 5% or 6% net returns. But after fees and inflation, real returns for a balanced portfolio are more like 2 to 3%.
That's a massive difference, though.
It really is. And then there's sequence of returns risk, which they just don't model at all. So if you get a bad market crash in your first 5 years of drawdown, that can permanently damage your pot, even if the long-term averages eventually look fine.
Oh, that's the timing problem, right? When the crash happens matters.
Exactly that. And then longevity. Calculators often plan to age 85, but roughly 1 in 4 65-year-olds will live past 90 and 1 in 10 past 95, according to ONS data. That's potentially a whole extra decade you need money for.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that many. 1 in 4 past 90?
Yeah, and inflation. They usually just assume 2% CPI forever. But if inflation averages, say, 3.5% for a decade, your purchasing power just collapses. And spouse benefits? Completely invisible in most of these tools. Losing a 50% spouse pension can devastate a surviving partner's finances.
That's actually really sobering. What about fees? Because I imagine once you're managing your own pot, there are quite a few layers of.
Oh, so many layers. Okay, so ongoing platform, fund, and advice charges of 1.5% to 2% a year are common, but they're rarely modeled honestly in these calculators. And remember, a DB pension has effectively zero ongoing cost to you. The scheme carries everything. Once you transfer, every basis point comes straight out of your future income.
Go on. What does that look like in actual pounds?
Okay, so regulated transfer advice alone typically costs between 2% and 5% of the CETV, or a flat $5,000 to $15,000. On that $480,000 CETV, that could be up to $24,000 gone before you invest a penny.
24 grand just to get started.
Just to get started. Then ongoing advice, 0.5% to 1% a year. Platform fees, 0.15% to 0.45%. Fund charges anywhere from 0.1% for tractors up to about 1% for active management, plus trading costs buried inside the funds. You add it all up and you're easily paying 1.5% to 2.5% every single year. On a $480,000 pot, that's $7,200 to $12,000 a year in charges. Over 25 years, that compounding drag can eat 30% or more of your final wealth.
Honestly, that's eye-watering. Have you seen this play out in real life? Like actual people getting burned?
Yeah, I have. So, take David, former engineer from Leeds, 58 years old. He was offered a 520,000 pound CSTV against a 19,500 annual DB pension. His free calculator flashed green. 5% net return, you'll be fine, off you go. He paid $15,000 in initial advice, settled on a SIP with total ongoing charges of 1.9%.
Okay.
Then 2022 happened. His portfolio dropped 17% in his first drawdown year, while he was already taking $26,000 out to cover his target income. 5 years in, his pot's sitting at $395,000 despite some modest recovery, and his advisor projected a 40% chance of running out of money by age 88.
Oh, God.
Meanwhile, his ex-colleague who stayed in the scheme, drawing $21,200 a year, inflation-linked, guaranteed for life. David's mistake wasn't stupidity. It was trusting a calculator that couldn't see the future.
Yeah, that really brings it home. Okay, so I want to talk about tax as well, because I'm guessing that changes too when you transfer.
It does, yeah. So you get 25% tax-free, capped at $268,275 under the current lump sum allowance rules. But the rest is taxed as income when you draw it. And people make mistakes, like drawing too much in one year and jumping into the 40 or 45% band, or triggering the money purchase annual allowance, which kills your future contribution flexibility, or missing how pension withdrawals interact with the personal allowance taper, or even care funding assessments down the line.
Right. So it's not just investment risk, it's tax risk too.
Exactly. And the inheritance angle. That's another one calculators love to highlight. A DB pension typically dies with you and your spouse, but a DC pot can be passed on, often free of inheritance tax before 75. So people think, great, I'll transfer for my kids. But HMRC rules on this have tightened, and the government has signaled further changes to pension death benefits from April 2027 onwards. So you're basing a lifetime decision on today's rules, which is risky.
I hadn't thought about it like that. The rules could just change underneath you.
They absolutely could, and they have before.
So what are actually, let me put it this way. What are the mistakes you see over and over? The ones that just keep coming up?
Okay, so anchoring on the headline number is huge. That CETV isn't your money until you transfer, and even then, it's not spendable income. Ignoring the spouse. So many decisions get made without properly consulting the partner who'd rely on survivor benefits. Underestimating longevity, like we said. Assuming you'll manage the pot yourself. Behavioral studies show most people either panic sell in downturns or overspend in good years.
Fair enough. That sounds about right.
Yeah, and not stress testing scenarios. A single 2008 style crash in early retirement can just end the plan. Trusting a single calculator, when free tools use wildly different assumptions and can give opposite answers on identical inputs. Oh, and one more. Signing under time pressure. CETVs are usually guaranteed for 3 months. That's enough time to think properly, not rush.
3 months. Okay, that's actually reassuring. There is time to breathe.
There is. And I should mention, if your CETV is above 30,000 pounds, UK law requires you to take regulated financial advice before transferring. That's not red tape, it's protection. And if any advisor or introducer contacts you out of the blue about transferring your DB pension, treat it as a scam until proven otherwise. Cold calling about pensions is illegal in the UK.
Oh, wow. Good to know. So, okay, what's the better way to think about this? If someone's got one of these letters, what should they actually do?
Right. So first, clarify your goals. Are you after income security, flexibility, inheritance, early retirement? Because different goals point to genuinely different answers. Then map your full retirement picture. State pension, other DC pots, ISAs, property, expected spending. A DB pension might be the foundation you really shouldn't remove.
Right.
Then model conservative scenarios. Use a 3% real return assumption, plan to age 95. If the transfer still works under those conditions, it's more robust. Cost every fee honestly. Add them all up, compare the drag over 25 years. Consider partial alternatives. Could you take DB benefits early, use commutation options, leave the DB alone, and adjust other pots instead?
So it's about looking at the whole picture, not just that one shiny number.
Exactly. And get regulated advice, not just because the law demands it above $30,000, but because a pension transfer specialist will spot risks you won't. And honestly, sleep on it. No good CETV decision was ever made in a week. Have I explained that clearly? Because I know it's a lot.
No, that's really clear. But are there any situations where transferring might actually make sense? Like, is it ever the right call?
Yeah, to be fair, there are serious ill health with a shortened life expectancy, no spouse or dependents who need survivor benefits, a very large CETV relative to the pension, multiples above 35, say, substantial other guaranteed income already secured, or a genuine evidence need for lump sum flexibility. But even in those cases, regulated advice is essential. It's not that transfers are always wrong, it's that they're rarely right, and calculators tend to hide the difference.
And what about the objections people raise? Like, but what if my scheme goes bust?
Yeah, I get that one a lot, but the Pension Protection Fund covers up to 90% of your benefits below a cap, and most FTSE-linked schemes are far from insolvent. And that I could invest better than the scheme argument? Maybe, but the scheme isn't just investing. It's pooling longevity risk across thousands of members, which is something you just can't replicate on your own.
And the control thing? People want control over their money.
Totally understandable. But control comes with responsibility for every market crash, every withdrawal decision, every tax mistake for the next 30 years. It's a lot.
Yeah, I think that's the bit that gets lost in the excitement of seeing a big number. So, to wrap this up, what should someone actually take away from all this?
Look, a CETV calculator is a starting point, never a verdict. That number on the screen is real, but the worth it traffic light is built on assumptions that can quietly undermine your retirement if they don't hold. Guaranteed income, inflation protection, spouse pensions, they're worth far more than most free tools suggest.
So the practical steps are
Work through the numbers with realistic assumptions
Have whatever return the calculator suggests and see if it still works. Model the fees honestly over 25 years. Plan to at least age 95. Get proper regulated advice, especially above that $30,000 threshold. And just take your time. Your DB pension might be the most valuable financial asset you'll ever own. Don't let a shiny number talk you out of a lifetime of security.
Assad, honestly, that's really helpful. Thanks for breaking all of that down.
Anytime, Angela. Happy to help.
Quick side note, this guide connects with other cost-saver blogs, especially smarter tax planning tools, leases versus pensions for first-time buyers, and life insurance and income protection guide.
Exactly, and reading those together helps you connect the dots across your household budget, not just this one topic in isolation.
And if you want to apply this immediately, jump into tools like DB Pension, CETV Worth It Calculator, and Tax Optimizer tool right after this episode.
Primary sources used here include FCA, Advising on Pension Transfers, and Money Helper, so you can verify the data yourself and stay evidence-led.
That wraps this cost-saver conversation with Angela and Assad. If this helped, share it with someone who could put these ideas to work this week.
Your next step is simple. Try DB Pension CETV Worth It Calculator, then read Smarter Tax Planning Tools and use them together to take action today.